The surprises are that it didn't go well. It went great. We knew it would be good, but we couldn't have imagined that the receptivity in our region and the support here in Nebraska would have been at such a high level. To be honest with you, I have not heard a negative. I'm talking about for months and months from fans, coaches, administrators, presidents, everybody. When we started the process, we didn't know where we were going to end up, but we did our due diligence. We met the people. I think timing was right. Probably 5 years ago or 5 years from now, it wouldn't have worked. We thought we were controlling the timeline, but we didn't control the timeline. Everybody thought our timeline was an attempt to mislead. Our timeline was our timeline. We just thought it would take some time to sort through, but we did enough due diligence that when Harvey came back from the Big 12 meetings and said, what do you think? And I said, we were really impressed. He says, we're going to have to make some decisions ourselves in the next 10 days. And I said, well, let me check with our presidents. And I gave them the report from our meetings, and we really had, really successful, informative, and positive meetings. And so our president said, what do you think? And I said, I think this is where we should be. And so I, let Harvey know that. I said, you guys would need to go to your board and need to apply, but we'd be very receptive if you did. And so that's how, it started. And then since then, all of the responses and reactions in our world, plus the staff interchange, the faculty representatives, the athletic director, and the president have attended as many they're welcome at all of our meetings, but they've attended a lot of them, and I think it's all been good. And everybody's got the games. Everybody knows the non-conference schedule. They know the games in Madison, October 1, and Ohio State here, and television networks are excited about the matchups, and we knew they would be excited about the matchups. They're just fabulous. So it's been really great. We were pretty happy to be at the table when we were. There wasn't quite as much competition because NBC, Universal, Comcast hadn't come together, didn't know they were going to come together, and Fox has clearly made their interest in college sports known in a grander way. But I think that's the competition for college football today. It's an unbelievable game, and it's grown in popularity over the last 15 years. In particular, the regular season games, they matter nationally. They're great athletes playing, great coaches. It's not that 10-7 game that you saw 25 years ago. And I know that the BCS is controversial, but it's also successful and controversial. And I don't think that Roy Kramer, when he conceived of the BCS and brought the rest of us along, we knew that we'd create a 1-2 game, and we knew that we would assist the bowl structure. But we couldn't have envisioned that it would have this much impact on the regular season. And I don't suggest that it's the reason for all of these rights fees increases, because it's not. It's competition, and it's technology, and it's formation of networks. But I will tell you that we've got a wonderful postseason tournament in basketball, but we have a regular season which is modest. And in college football, we've got 13 or 14 weekends that are pretty unique and pretty compelling. And I think that the postseason has energized the regular season. We were at about 57,000, 58,000 in 89-90, I think it was. And part of it is the Penn State edition, which has created greater games. Part of it is the growth of the stadiums. Part of it will be Nebraska's edition. But I wouldn't be surprised to see us push 75,000. We're around 72. So I see continuing growth, and that's at a time when we went from 18 games on TV in 1989 to last year, I think we had 80 games. So every game is televised. If you recall, the rationale for controlling television in the 70s and 80s was that people wouldn't come to the games. Well, quite to the contrary. And I could show you a slide that shows the growth of television coinciding with the growth of attendance. And so, that's happened not only in the Big Ten, it's happened in the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12. And so, it's a pretty healthy marketplace. We'll have our turn, but we're pretty happy with what we have. There are a lot of benefits for us. I mean, I think that if you look at the games that are created, they're fabulous games. So a lot of people talk about demographics and markets, and I think it's really about the games in a lot of ways. We're not the NFL, but the NFL has a very small market team in Green Bay, and yet it's their national games. Everything they do is a powerful game, and I think Nebraska football brand has developed in such a way that, like Notre Dame, like Oklahoma, like Texas, like Southern Cal, it's one of those programs that whenever you put them up against another quality opponent, you have a national game. So I think if you wanted to say what's the one thing that stands out, I think that the Nebraska games in football stand out. But more than that, I think the fact that it's in a contiguous state, I think there's a shared culture. I don't think that there's a lot of similarities with other Western states. In the Big Ten, I think they believe in broad-based programs. We believe in broad-based programs. I think they've had success in a lot of different programs, as we have. I think they believe in and value the notion of sportsmanship at a very high level, which we believe in and value. And so I think that there's a lot of connectivity, and I thought there was with Penn State 20 years ago. And I think that when you think about it, Penn State edition in the East and Nebraska edition in the West, it's a pretty powerful two-institution expansion. And we were cautious and conservative, took our time, but I think where we are now positions us exceptionally well for future decades. I think absolutely it would have. If you follow these expansion discussions, we had very serious discussions with another institution that wasn't a member of the AAU in the 90s. I don't know if you know who that institution is. There you go. So I think Notre Dame has its excellence, but it doesn't necessarily have a major research component. Nebraska has its what was important to us is fit, geographic, ethical, academic, and we're proud of the AAU membership we have, but we don't have any control over AAU membership. I think they're sorting through. It's a historical organization that goes back 100 years, and they're making the decisions they need to make. But ours was about the Big Ten Conference and the Committee on Institutional Cooperation, which is our academic arm. And we had unanimous support in both bodies for Nebraska, and so that support continues, potentially. I think that we've got a few years out on schedules, and they're reviewed all the time, and but it potentially could. Yeah, I think the two schools have would like to happen. What we don't want to do, since we're moving from a 10-member to 11-member to 12-member, and we're only out 4 years. We want to leave ourselves the flexibility to look at it, but both institutions like it, and if it's successful, it's something that probably will grow on people. On the baseball side, I would think that there would be some openness. Baseball is I think in a place where we're willing to experiment more, move things around. We were in Columbus at their minor league park there. It worked pretty well. And this is just, this is the mecca in our part of the country for college baseball. And I think it would be something we would be interested in exploring. Yeah, I think it's the tradition, the facilities, the game day. Yeah, I mean, I think the facilities are part of game day. I would say it's game day. You know, I think it's the tailgating. I think it's the large crowds. It's the traditions. I think that, you know, Nebraska will not be surprised because they've had, you know, great rivalries here, and they've had great game days in the Big 12 and in the Big 8. And you've got some, you know, just huge games, and we do as well. And we're proud of those. I mean, one of the reasons, other than, I mean, one of the objectives other than competitive equality was to preserve rivalries. And we had, I think, 17 trophy or rivalry games. We were able to preserve, I think, 13. And the athletic directors are great to decide, well, we know we can't do this, because some of the schools have 3 or 4 games that they were trying to preserve, and everybody, they resolved that. But I think the traditions, but Nebraska's got a phenomenal tradition, so they'll recognize, I think, themselves at a lot of these places, because, you know, they sell it out and 85,000, but you go to Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan State, Wisconsin, I think it'll be very familiar to them. I think they'll feel like they came home some ways, because you have great fan base here, you got huge, great facilities, and you got a fan following, and we've got some of that as well.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.